Here we go.
What do you like to do?
Oh, I don't know. Play chess. Screw.
Well, let's play chess.
Richardson going to take off and run. He's in there! Touchdown! I-N-D-Y! Outside give to Taylor. Stretching it out. He's at the 5, and he walks in untouched. Jonathan Taylor. Turner wants to do more damage, and he does.
Here's Halliburton into the front court. Mishandled it, but gets a shot. Hits it! Hits it!
John, I have never been better to be on the air with you here in Indianapolis, a place where so many of my dreams have come true.
The Ride with JMV on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Hey, I hope everybody had a great weekend out there. I did. It was a fine time. It was, especially yesterday. Good times yesterday, good times on Saturday night. Let me tell you this. This is a lead-up to a week that you will want to be a part of this show. You will at some point. And again, I am an advocate that you join us at every turn, every day, everything we do, because I just love having you out there. And I know that that's not feasible for everybody. It's probably not feasible for very many. But this is the type of week and then weekend in which we all need to hang together, because honestly, this is going to be a weekend that you're going to put up in the upper echelon of weekends of all time. We just need it. Think about where we're on the way to right here. I know that there's a lot of good quality stuff to talk about. I mean, around here, you got the Pacers. That was feel good. But let's face it, regarding the Colts, I had Ron come over from Love Heating and Air a little bit earlier today to check out my system, which I would advise that you do as well. Shout out to Ron for that. And Kendra, who's celebrating a birthday, who got a fantastic birthday gift. That being said, Ron and I were talking about the Colts, and I try to, I'm not suggesting you write any of this off because you don't. You have no idea how the hell this is going to go. But if you do know one thing, you know that this season, you're going to have some premier ups where you can feel good and your quarterback's going to the Hall of Fame, and that is great. Just athletically gifted, talented, all of the above. And then there are going to be moments where they're going to say, this guy couldn't play in the Arena League. That's how it is going to be. I thought Thursday night, even beyond all the Amazon crap and, the bringing up of Joe Flacco, which for an injury, that's fine. But for performance, that's ridiculous. Because you had to have tagged on to that. If it's for performance, then everybody gets fired. I mean, everybody. Everybody goes. If you decide during the season that you're better off with Flacco that's going to win you games than Anthony Richardson, then it is time to fire everybody. I think we all get fired, just all of us. That's how bad that would be. That's DEFCON 1 right there. An injury situation you can understand because you've been down that path before. But when I was talking to Ron today from Love Heating and Air, I said, yeah, I thought Thursday, once Chris Hagan told me what microcosm meant, and I figured that out, I thought Thursday represented exactly what and exactly how you should prepare yourself for this football season. That's it. It was perfect. Now, I will also say, remember when I brought up the need of reps? The more, the better. And everybody wants to play this thing, err on the side of caution, the glass case, the bubble wrap, all that bull crap, right? This is a guy where I think it would have been understandable if he would have continued to play in the second half. I know that he can, and I know that you would look at that as not feasible because you're out there with a bunch of dudes that aren't likely ever going to play again in the NFL. I understand that aspect, but what it did was magnify just how he needs reps. I'm going to tell you, too, I think Richardson can lead. I think guys will listen to Richardson. I think Richardson, the battle he's going to have is within the own parameters of his dome. How do you get through those moments that you know that are coming where you just are mistake-ridden? How do you get out of that? Because the really good ones, the leaders, the guys that, I hate to say this, it sounds so cliche, the guys that answer the call, the bell, as to why people thought they were going to be at that level of a player, in this case, a quarterback. The guys that do that, the guys make a mistake and they immediately move on, and it kind of seems like so far, and especially on Thursday, that when a mistake is made, then you're still living in that moment. You cannot live in that stinking moment. You just can't. You got to move on. Talk to the corners about it. And then if you try to talk to the corners and you go, well, wait a minute, these guys haven't played 5 minutes, what would they know? Talk to Julian Blackmon about it. Julian Blackmon and Kenny Moore, to me, would be a spectacular resource for Anthony Richardson. Hell, Matt Gay, provided he gets out of the slumber in which he has been in the preseason. And as he explained to us back in camp, he seems to have a pretty good way to get out of this, or at least feels confident that he's going to get out of this. Guys that everybody kind of hangs on one single moment for him. One single moment, one single play. 1/10 of a second during one play. If you're Kenny Moore, whether or not you get your head around or your hand up. If you're Julian Blackmon, whether or not, read the eyes of the quarterback and you're over there in time. For Matt Gay, when you're put in from 50-plus, whether or not you can hit everything out there, but hit that thing right and knock it through. And I should have said this to Matt Gay. I should have said, here's what, if you're going to miss, the double doink is one thing. But how about the triple doink? You need a doink off the left upright, a doink off the crossbar, and then a doink off the right upright. And then to go in, that would be fantastic. If you do that, you need to get like you would in pinball, like 100,000 points. But he needs to have dialogue with guys that careers hang on milliseconds. Just hang on those snap judgments. And there's so much more than just being athletically gifted. I can't even get in the realm of trying to figure out how awesome it would be to be that stinking athletically gifted. You guys ever think about that? Oh, yeah, by the way, you've started how many games as a quarterback? And then you're drafted number 4 overall. And then if you get on the basketball floor, you're going to work everybody over. You can do basically whatever you want because of your athleticism. But what you have to do in this game to be the elite of the elite, you have to figure that out, and you got to figure it out in your head. Now, I would struggle with everything non-athletic, and I have a 10-cent head. I think we all know that because I couldn't even figure out what the hell microcosm meant last year, and I think I was the one that said it. That was last week. So I've got a 10-cent head. Richardson has to just be more than his incredible level of athleticism. And for us, it is going to be, remember when you used to love him, maybe you still do, and I don't even know what exists over there right now. I'm assuming it's great over at Kings Island. I know we used to go over there for the Beast, the world's largest wooden roller coaster. I never knew what that really meant, but it was fun as hell. Or for Viper, or for the Cobra, where you stood up. It's going to be roller coaster rides like that, and it's going to be fun at some point, but there are going to be other points in which you're thinking, wow, what a mistake this was. Look what's going on other places. Because when you think about it, he's still a rookie quarterback. You're not just going against C.J. Stroud, who's already planted his flag as a rookie. You're not just going against Will Levis, who was a guy that had been prominently mentioned as a possibility for the Colts. Yeah, you're not going against those guys. You're going against Bo Nix, who's going to get the start with the Broncos. A guy like Drake May, Caleb Williams, the number 1 overall for the Bears. I mean, you're going against this batch of rookies as well. And it's all going to be difficult. I will say this. And see if you agree on this point. It seems nationally, like we're more focused in on what is real around here. But it seems nationally that those that cover the sport, again, nationwide, are looking for any reason to suggest this guy is going to be great. You guys notice it? I don't know who it might be, and maybe it's just me missing it, but it seems like everybody that I have heard talk believes that Richardson is going to be great. And then if you were to drop in on a 9-hour day over the course of a Monday through Friday afternoon, this show midday with Query and Company, morning with the Swebo, we look at it differently because you're more apt to see absolutely everything and understand the pitfalls. Plus, you've been living in this for the better part 5+ years right now, where it has been mostly a disaster. And it's one of those, you got to have it proven to you before you believe you're past it. But nationally, it's like the kiss of excellence. It's weird. I will say this. Oftentimes, listeners will gravitate to what is being said that they believe in. And this is not breaking any new ground. This is like across the hall with my good friends Hammer and Nigel. That's what's happening over there right now. Yeah, the truth is found in their dynamic within the person that believes in what is being said. That's the truth. It is not always the truth. And it's the same way here. We talk about sports. We're talking about a guy's play. And oftentimes the truth is heard sporadically. And what I mean by that is the truth is heard if you hear me talking about how the expectation is nationally he's going to be great, and that's what you want to hear, that's what you're going to believe. And you're going to take my opinion and you're going to blank can it. That's the way that it works. But around here, it seems like more people are apt on what is a wait and see mode right now. And again, I truly get it. And it's not just living in this moment of having a very inexperienced yet incredibly gifted-looking talent. If you're making up, like the Madden games, if you're making up a quarterback, you're going to make it up to look like that. You're going to have somebody else's decision-making, but you're going to make it up to look like that. I love basketball. Get me in the triple threat position. Why you got 3 options to go at somebody trying to D you up? This guy's got more than a triple threat offensively, but the one threat that he needs to come up with is that of decision making, and that is all-encompassing. That is a cloak of success that you have to have at that position. And you know what? Sometimes, as we have witnessed, you can go without the high level of athleticism as long as you have that. So think about what I just explained to you for the past 10 minutes. It's exactly why you need an incredible weekend. I'm going to get you prepared. I'm going to get you ready this weekend with back-to-back, with wall-to-wall, with never-ending, good, clean fun for the entire family. And if, by the way, and I know it's family affairs we're doing, if you see me like laying on the grass someplace, just tell your son or daughter I'm resting. I think he's just resting his eyes. The grass is really soft and he's resting his eyes. But you need this because after it, you're going to have what I just talked about regarding Richardson and the Colts, and what is 50-50 at best as far as where this thing can lean, and what I think arguably is going to be the best AFC South that we have seen in a long damn time. And then if you're like newsworthy, and maybe you're just kind of flipping around to see what's going on right here, if you're newsworthy, you know what the hell's on the horizon there, and there's going to be nobody happy about anything. So let's make sure as we close out the summer of 2024 and get into the NFL and get into college football, and the Kurt Cignetti era down in Bloomington starts on Saturday. Ryan Walters Part 2, the sequel up in West Lafayette, is ready to get underway. The implementation of new teams from the Pac-12 within the Big Ten. And then not so soon after the start of the NBA season, the Pacers running it back. Let's make sure we get in a good frame of mind. You need it. You need it. That's why I'm here to provide that, too. Again, Daddy, what's that older gentleman doing over there in the grass? He's just resting his eyes. So Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, Thursday, Eagle Creek with the guys from the NHRA, the Super Bowl of the NHRA, the U.S. Nationals coming up this weekend. And we're going to have a variety of drivers out with me coming up on Thursday. I believe Brent Halverson is going to be with me as well, and so is Jim Romanak. Romy, they are having a charity event, a fundraising event, if you will, out at Eagle Creek, and we'll be on that coming up on Thursday. Friday, it is going to be the first of back-to-back nights up in Mystic Waters Campground. I will get this for you, too. I got it in my email. Brent Halverson and I talked a little bit earlier. We have ourselves an itinerary, everybody, for Friday. We have this show with you. There is a band at Mystic Waters Campground shortly thereafter. They're going to put the speakers up. And if we need to, going late into the night and just doing what we do, we've got some JMV classic films to show. Not porn. Classic films to show. Like JMV After Dark. No, not the Spice Channel. Although a little Cinemax mixed in probably wouldn't be bad. So, yeah, maybe a little JMV Film Fest going out over there. And what's weird, too, is I know you're going to have a lot of people that are going over to Sammy Hagar and Loverboy at Ruoff, which will be outstanding. And I think some people are going to shuttle up to Harrah's Hoosier Park in Anderson. But now we got your weekend planned. JMV Takeover on Saturday. Our good friend at the Foo Bar Lounge, J-Law. It may be some pool time. This weekend's not just for me. It is provided by us for you guys. Because then things get serious, and it's not always going to be as fun-loving as you're going to find basically every moment of your Labor Day weekend. So hopefully you're a part of it. I will tell you this, that Brent did tell me they are sold out with cabins on Saturday night for the JMV Takeover. Sold out for cabins. Still, you can come out. They got tent space, camping space, and, I mean, right next to me, you can just, like, sleep in a chair if you want. Sleep in the bed of the truck, sleep in the back of the Acadia, whatever you want to do. But they've got space to camp, so no cabin availability Saturday night for the JMV Takeover. There are cabins available Friday night. So if you're thinking about staying on Friday night and checking out the band and hanging out there doing whatever you want to do with the JMV Film Fest, you can kind of imagine what's going to be planned. What do you think, James? The JMV Film Fest would consist of what incredible lasting classics? What do you got?
Probably Roadhouse.
Roadhouse.
Roadhouse is on there.
Oh, we're going to have some fighting, some nudity. We're going to have some swear words
absolutely.
in it. We got some throat ripping out.
Maybe Ridgemont High. What was it?
Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Phoebe Cates coming out of the pool. And then get me a little bit of a filmage arousal there. Yes. I think Brent put Dazed and Confused.
That's a good one.
1993 right there.
Is it too early for Die Hard?
No, it's never too early for Die Hard, buddy. No. Never too early. Although I don't know if they want to go just kind of that maybe there's more comedic, like Caddyshack.
I got you.
But no, man, Die Hard would work. That definitely would be a part of the JMV Film Fest. You going to stop by? Have we piqued your interest enough? Do we have, like, way out in the country plans, James?
I've got plans this weekend,
James.
unfortunately.
Oh, wait, can we all hear?
Oh, I'm just doing a fantasy football draft with my buddies.
Can I ask somebody? So I was over to pool yesterday, my friend the Watsons, Jeff Watson, and I got a little tuned up, just a little bit. We had to push back to Fox 59 to where you could tell last night that I was sitting alone in the dark at the time. And push it back a little bit. Shout out to Jeff and Glenda Watson. But their son-in-law and Nate had to get up and leave. I go, man, we got the Bottle and Bond right here. The Heaven Hill Distillery Bottle and What are you leaving about? Well, I've got to go to my fantasy draft. Well, you got to be there. What do you got to be together for this?
Because I've got some friends that we don't live in town, so they're coming in, and we're kind of doing a whole shindig for it.
I don't know why you got to do it. So there was 2 years ago, I drafted my fantasy team on the side of I-69.
It's
on the shoulder of the road.
It's an excuse to hang out with your friends, though. Especially,
I'm giving everybody an excuse to hang out with everybody's friends right here.
I got buddies coming in from Chicago that I haven't seen for a while, so it's gonna be a whole thing.
All right, because I think I'm in one with Amaya from upstairs has got something going, who used to be in promotions, now works at TLC. I'm doing that, and we have ours. When's our draft? Do we know?
It's going to be this weekend, probably, I don't know, Sunday,
You want to
maybe?
give somebody a spot right here while I'm thinking about it, too?
Yeah, we can.
Over there?
Yeah.
You want to do that? Okay, hold on. So we got to put that together. And that's obviously winner-take-all Bar East stock with Heaven Hill Distillery. And we got to pick them coming up, too. But, yeah, I just never understood why you got to leave. Why can't you just do that? You got all this technology and this phone stuff. Just stay poolside and just be clicking on that pick after pick. Whatever. At any rate, Fever, not good on Saturday night, losing on the road at Minnesota. We'll talk about that. I wish, and I know they play later on tonight, but I wish that they would have had more, at least one more game, and taken advantage of last week. Kind of wonder if this is going to get lost in the shuffle. I know that there are a different set of fans, and Bob Kravitz will talk about this at 4 o'clock. Different set of fans here. So maybe the hype, maybe all that surrounds Caitlin Clark and the Fever right now will maintain. But you are going to have to get some winning consistency certainly going here. And you just hated to see they did that. 2 games in a row, win, and then you're basically down a week and you lose on Saturday night. Fever later on tonight. We'll discuss that as well with you. I mentioned the start of college football. Donald Thomas was here for a minute. He's a part of the Believe network of podcasting. He does that and talks about the Colts. We'll talk about the Colts with Donald. Bottom of the hour. Bob Kravitz at bobkravitz.com. Not only tonight is going with me to Pearl Jam, and shout out to Sarah, who is going to have me and Kravitz and my friend Doug. And hopefully I see you guys all out there. Hopefully you got some stuff for me out there. Drinks. Thank you very much. Not that kind of stuff. But at Pearl Jam later on tonight, remember, and I have not seen, by a year ago this time, it was a late postponement because of an illness to Vetter. I have never seen Pearl Jam, and I'm going to be up there for the first time later on tonight to add that to my resume. Hopefully, if you have those tickets, I see you up there as well. Bob Kravitz in the 4 o'clock hour, Stephen Holder in the 5, Ronnie Harrison cut. We'll ask about that. Any other surprises? I thought James Boyd brought up the point regarding Jelani Woods. I had that conversation with Kevin Bowen last Wednesday. He seems to think they don't have to do anything about him right now, so why do anything about him right now? But I would also suggest, as I did last Wednesday, that have we not seen it all, seen enough? And it seems like the end of time here. We shall see. We'll talk to Stephen Holder about that coming up after 5. And what do we have to give away, James?
We've got tickets to Leonard Skinnard.
Tickets to Skinnard to give away at some point by the end of the afternoon. All right, 239-1070, email address, JMV at 1075thefan.com. Inside the AAA membership lounge via YouTube Live. Hopefully I see you guys up and around Pearl Jam later on tonight up at Ruoff, and you can check out my friends at AAA up there. Matt and what should be a fun night. That is inside the AAA membership lounge via YouTube Live. The stream, the app, HD Radio, and once again, remember on Friday, there's some cabins available at Mystic Waters. On Saturday, we're sold out of cabins. So plan accordingly. Quick break. We shall return. We got Donald Thomas, the former Colts player, former NFL offensive lineman of the Believe Podcasting Network. He's going to join us next. 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
with JMV.
If somebody gets in your face and calls you a I want you to be nice.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Shout out to Steve Simonson, where he sends me a picture from Ruoff Music Center, and the line is already underway. I see the line and then 4 porta pots right there. That does not seem to be enough. Pearl Jam, the rescheduled from this time a year ago Pearl Jam show, is later on tonight at Ruoff, and I'm serious. Pictures will detail already being lined up and ready to go for it. So, yeah, I'm not going to count on that I see it up there, but hopefully I do. This thing, I went to see Red Hot Chili Peppers about a month ago, and that was as packed as I've seen that place in a while. This is going to be even worse than that, you'd have to think. Yeah, keep me updated, everybody, because I'm going to be late to this party tonight. It's going to take me a minute to get done here and then get up there. So keep me updated. Meantime, Andy Moore, Automotive Group Hotline. You remember him? Back his days here with the Colts on the offensive line, the former NFL offensive lineman, a part of the Believe Podcasting Network. Talks about the Colts and then some. We'll break some things down with us right now. Donald Thomas joins us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group Hotline. Hello, Donald. How are you?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
Long time, no conversation. Good to have you back. I believe the last time I saw you was at the, let me think here, the Bullseye Event Group Colts VIP tailgate. Maybe last year, year before last. When was that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing that for like the past almost 4 years, so probably in the last year or two.
Yeah, it was last year. Are you doing that again this year?
Yep, I'll be down there. All those home games. We got 9 this year, so look forward to it.
So I go from 9 until 10. I actually go down there in the back before they actually open. Then I have to go up to Touchdown Town to do the pregame show. So that's probably why we haven't crossed paths yet. But, yeah, Kyle Kinnett tells me that you've been down there and you're a heck of a draw. People like hanging out and talking with you, so that's fantastic. And I'm assuming you kind of feel the same love with the Believe and the podcast, right? Do you like doing it?
Yeah, I love it, man. It just gives me an opportunity to stay, connected to the game and stay connected to the team where I reside at, right? And so it gives me purpose on Sundays to kind of pay more attention.
Where are you with Anthony Richardson? I explained that to everybody, the expectation, and it being some great moments and some really down moments. Where you are, or where are you, I should say, with the future of the Colts quarterback right now?
I'm optimistic. I tell people all the time when they ask me, I say, I think Anthony Richardson has all the physical attributes that anyone could ever want in a quarterback, right? Height, speed, weight, you name it, he's got it. It's just, he's still young, right? He's still technically, in my opinion, this is still his rookie year. He's going to have to really, go through his ups and downs. I'm very optimistic. The drive on the last preseason game, the first drive was very promising, and then, the pick six wasn't so much. So, I think there's going to be, unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of that this year as long as he stays healthy. But I think there's tremendous upside for him.
How quickly, and obviously the athleticism is there. There's no disputing that. How quickly should Colts fans watch for, hopefully, what is an evolution in the decision-making, which has to be at some point there to be elite, even to go with that athleticism? When do you think it clicks for him with decision-making, Donald, in mind?
I think there's going to have to click when it clicks for him. And I say that to say this. He has to understand that the Cam Newtons of the world are over with. When I say that, I say defenses are going to try their darnest to get a lick on him. And so he's going to have to make some better decisions with the football instead of trying to run with it and be this powerful running back when he gets the ball to, maybe throwing the ball away or, just studying film more to find where those holes are in the defense, because he's not going to want to get beat up. And these guys are going to really try to, put a lick into him when he does take off and run with the football. So the decision-making is going to have to come, it just takes reps. It's going to be reps. And unfortunately, he didn't get a full year of reps in. So I think this is going to be at least another, half of the season for him to realize, all right, I got to make better decisions with the football, better decisions for my body, so I can prolong my career.
See, it's interesting, too. The bar, and I mentioned this, Donald Thomas joins us. I mentioned this earlier. The bar, he's going to get a lot of comparisons with the week one quarterback who already has a year, his rookie season under his belt, and C.J. Stroud. But I also brought up the fact that you got all these rookies from Caleb Williams, to Drake May, to Bo Nix, who's starting out in Denver for Sean Payton as well. That's probably where it's going to be more relatable for him, because you're right. This is basically a reboot of his rookie season coming up.
Correct. I mean, and this year's rookie class of quarterbacks is way stronger than last year's by any stretch of the imagination, in my opinion. But he has a lot to compete with, especially from week one. And I mean, we can't even compare the two. Stroud he had an incredible rookie season. I don't think people are looking at him to make those, bad rookie decisions. And it's going to be one of those things where Anthony's going to really have to, really study film. He's going to really have to, be on his P's and Q's and compete. And he can't think about the quarterback across the way from him. He's got to play the game within himself. And he's competing with himself, to be honest. But yes, he did come in with Stroud, and Stroud was phenomenal last year, and he's looking to keep that campaign going. So, it's just going to be one of those things where Anthony's going to have to worry about himself and his own development, and not worry about the noise around him.
So Donald Thomas of the Believe Podcasting Networks on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Donald, I look at decision-making, and you can 1A, 1B it, or flip-flop it if you want, with accuracy for Richardson. What comes as a product first, and what does he have to do? To me, decision-making, I think, makes your accuracy better because you're more confident where you're going to place the football that is going to get there on time where it needs to be. Are these relatable subjects to where you need to see lofty improvement this year from him?
Yeah, so like I said before, Anthony has all the physical attributes that one could want. I think his arm is overly strong. And I think that, he wants to get the ball to certain places, but I think he just puts a little something too much on it sometimes, and he overthrows receivers. He's going to have to learn how to really, really dial in on his touch passes. I think that's going to be huge for him to know when to take some off the ball, when to really sling it in there. Because when I was at, training camp, you saw a lot of balls where receivers are open, he just overthrew them, right? He's got to understand his own strength and really just focus on, working with his receivers, timing, understanding where they're going to be, how fast each of them run, who has certain capabilities of going up and getting those deep balls and jump balls and all that good stuff. And then really trying to, learn how to pick defenses apart, knowing where those soft holes are within those zone defenses, right? And so, he's going to see a lot of man coverage just because he is able to run the football. It's not going to be as much zone, but, understanding matchups, right? Really understanding matchups. I think that's one huge thing that, quarterbacks, really elite quarterbacks understand is matchups. They understand, where those guys are that have those tendencies to not be able to play the deep ball as well, or, play the short game as well. So he has to just learn that. And I think he'll be a lot better, at the quarterback position this year.
Hey, Donald, does anybody stand out as far as what you saw a massive improvement in accuracy from a younger point as a quarterback in the NFL, to ultimately where maybe you were even surprised that the accuracy at that level was so much better? Does any single quarterback come to mind to you?
To be fair, minus the injuries, Joe Burrow is one of those quarterbacks where, I've always thought that he had great decision making. He made some really good decisions early in his career, and he's only gotten better to where he got seasoned a lot faster than I expected him to. I think that having that great run where he went to Super Bowl, was one where he capitalized on that. But, as far as just, getting the extra reps and getting the cobwebs out of going into the playoffs, he's been one that's really impressed me. The injuries are one thing where you're not seeing him as much, but hopefully, guys can stay healthy.
Yeah, it just seems like if there was one category that may be the toughest to improve, it would be the accuracy or the ball placement, if you will, which is a buzz term at that position these days.
Yeah, here's the deal, right? what a lot of, rookie quarterbacks and a lot of guys in the league don't understand until they get there is, the attention to detail, and you have like the room for error. It shrinks. It's like a vacuum, and that goes for any position, not just the quarterback position. But the things you got away with in college, you're not going to get away with in the NFL, because I tell guys all the time, like, you have to understand, like, you're going against an NFL guy every Sunday because you're in the league, right? In college, you're not doing that, right? Like 90% of those guys are not playing on Sunday, so there's room for error. Whereas in the NFL, that room for error isn't there anymore, because these guys are sharp, these guys are faster, they're smarter, they react a lot quicker. They have different tricks of their trade to fool you. There's coverages, the coordinators are better, like you name it. So you got to level up your game when you step up to the big boy league.
So Donald Thomas, the former Colts offensive lineman, a part of the Believe podcasting network, kind enough to join us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. A couple more things before I let you go. Chris Ballard has been noted over the past 7 years of being major focused on the inside, the interior, both sides of the football. Now, we would probably be right to argue that defense and offensive line play would be the staple, would be the best part about the way this team is built right now. Are these two units, in your opinion, top 10 worthy? Defensive line, offensive line?
So, defensively, 100%, right? When I look at them from, inside, interior, D tackles to the D ends, I think they're in my opinion, the top 5 is not top 3. D-line wise. Offensively, I think we can creep into the top 10. Here's my thing, and I look at it because I'm an offensive lineman, right?
Sure.
At heart, wherever. The unit isn't just those top 5, right? The starting 5. Like, there's got to be, and you see this across the league, there's tremendous drop-off when you go to the second team. And that just is what it is. That's just how good guys have to be and how good they are. And unfortunately, don't kill me on this, but I just didn't see it just wasn't great when the twos were in. Like, they moved the ball, protection was okay, but it just wasn't great. And so, as we all know, guys are not going to stay healthy like the whole year, right? And so we have to start popping in pieces. It's going to affect that unit. And so I want to say, I would say, across the board, starting 5, definitely top 10. It's just hard to put that piece together, like when you guys will have to get inserted in, and there's a little bit of a drop off. Like, there was some serious inconsistency when the twos got in. So, I'm very optimistic to see how they run the football, because that's only going to help Anthony up front. I think protection wise, I think these guys are pretty good in pass pro. I'm not going to lie to you. I think they did a pretty good job in the preseason of protecting the quarterback. It's just going to be opening up those holes consistently so that we can have a passing game.
Donald, that does beg the question here regarding Jonathan Taylor, because what you're looking for from this offense is overall productivity, and to take some of the pressure off of a rookie reboot season for Anthony Richardson under center. Jonathan Taylor is going to have to be really good. As to what level does he need to be good to help out? We talk about this all the time. Receivers making tougher catches, helping out your quarterback in his ball placement, his accuracy. But Jonathan Taylor and what Jonathan Taylor needs to be doing this year to take some of the pressure off the productivity of his young quarterback.
Well, Jonathan Taylor's above average, right? Jonathan Taylor's very, very good running back. He's going to have to be a very, very good running back. He's going to have to be elite. And that just goes with the territory. I mean, he got paid. He's got to be elite, right? He's going to have to be Jonathan Taylor of a few years ago, when he surprised everybody coming out of Wisconsin and just took the league by storm. I mean, that's what the Colts really need from him in order for Anthony to have tremendous success, because now you can't stack you stack the box, now the pass game's open, right? And so it's going to make teams have to play more balanced attack when they come to play the Colts. If the run game is there, and if Jonathan Taylor is elite like we know he can be.
So Donald Thomas right there is a part of the Believe podcasting network, and you just go to Believe.com. That's BLEAV.com to find your shows regarding the Colts. I'd love to have you back on if you got some time here further down the road. Would you be cool with that?
Yeah, absolutely, man. You know, I'm always around, so whenever you need me, I'm here.
Have you lived around here the entire time?
Yeah,
Where the hell have I been? What have I been doing?
I don't know, man.
I don't
I've
either.
been here since 2013. I haven't
What?
left, so Indy's got me. They've got a hold on me. So, but it's a great place to live and raise my family. So I'm cool with it.
Where you living?
I'm up in Carmel actually. So I'm a Carmelite, so they like to say. But yeah, I've been in Carmel, you know, since I signed my contract here back in 2013 and never left.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe that's it. I'm from Bargersville, so I'm basically from southern Indiana. They rarely let me in. Like tonight, I'm going to go see Pearl Jam, and I'm going to have to go home and get my passport, probably. So, yeah.
Well, like when I say I'm from Carmel, it can go either way. People are like, ugh, or they're like, oh, nice place to stay, right? So I usually just say Indy all the time, just so everyone's everybody's cool with it.
Nah, say Carmel, man. Be proud of that because it's a great spot. I'm telling you what, Hamilton County is a great spot. You picked a hell of a place to raise a family and hang out. And, Donald, we'll stay in touch. We'll get you back on over the course of the season.
All right, man. Sounds good. Look forward to it.
You got Donald Thomas right there, Believe Podcasting Network. That's Believe.com, BLEAV.com. And you can find his Colts shows. It's funny, James, when you brought him on, it occurred to me that I have seen him at Bullseye, which, by the way, next week we'll have some Bullseye passes for everybody. But I see him at Bullseye, but I'm always leaving and going to Touchdown Town when he's coming in at about 10 a.m. or so. But yeah, I like him. We'll have to do that again.
Yeah, you seem nice. Yeah,
it's fun too because the Believe Podcasting Network has turned out some good resources for us.
Oh yeah, there's been some good contacts from that.
You got it, James. Right there, Donald Thomas, the former Colts offensive lineman, former NFL player since 2013. Did he say he's been here for 9 years? Yeah. How long have you been here? 9 years. On the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline right there. Quick break and we shall return. Bob Kravitz, top of the hour. Stephen Holder coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. Leonard Skinnard tickets to give away for you as well. Sit tight for that later on in the show. I tell you what, while I'm thinking about it now, 239-1070. If you want to get involved, I've got a wild card availability for involvement in our winner-take-all restock with Heaven Hill Distillery Fantasy Football League 2024. Got a wild card giveaway at 239-1070 right now. So if you want in, James is going to roll the wheel, see what happens here. 239-1070, a wild card position in our winner-take-all restock with Heaven Hill Distillery Fantasy Football League 2024. Got a position for you, 239-1070. Quick break. Back with you next.
The Ride with JMV.
We're putting the band back together.
Forget it. No way. We're on a mission from God.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Yeah, I don't know if they play this tonight or not. If you look, and I'm a big-time set list looker, I just am. I can't help it. Some shows, they play Yellow Lead better. Others, they don't. You'll find out later on tonight. Did I ask you this last week? Are you a set list looker?
No, I'm not.
Before or during the show? I
like to be surprised.
See, I don't. I want to go to the bathroom when I know there's something coming up I don't necessarily need to hear.
I wait for them to start, if it's like big band, like when I saw Metallica, I waited for them to start playing newer stuff, and then I went to the bathroom then.
Do I take away some of the magic, you think? A little bit of the magic of being at a live show when I do that?
Maybe.
Now, these guys change everything up. I think the last show they had was in Missoula, Montana, where I believe they did not play Yellow Lead better. CeeDee Lamb, $136 million, according to sources. You knew that was going to come up with the Cowboys right there. You knew it. And what else did I see a little bit earlier, too? I saw Nick Chubb, first 4 games of the season, he is on injured reserve, trying to come back from his injury. And Kansas City bringing back Juju Smith-Schuster. And we'll also watch Kansas City and their 53-man for Carson Steele from Center Grove and watch what the Bears are doing regarding Austin Booker up in Chicago. The Bears are going to be fun to watch this year. And I also saw this, and it really has not a lot to do with the Colts other than, 2 times this year, divisional challenge, whatever, within the AFC South. But remember L'Jarius Sneed, and I think it was actually reported around here that he was going to sign here, and then he didn't. He ended up getting traded, right? Yeah, did he get traded or – yeah, I think he got traded from Kansas City to the Titans, but a lot of people thought he was going to end up here. And I think it was reported he was going to end up here, and it didn't come to fruition. But he was quoted over the weekend on Pivot Podcast by saying, I didn't talk to them. I was bitter. Kansas City was my first love. They showed me the ways, showed me how to be a champion, gave me 2 rings, end quote. But that's just a part of what Tennessee's trying to put together down there. They're doing that at corner. Went after a couple of veteran safeties in Adams and in Diggs. Calvin Ridley, wide receiver. And then obviously had their fingers crossed on their second-year quarterback in Will Levis. A lot of questions there, too. But they did go at it to build and rebuild a much different way than certainly Chris Ballard and the Colts did. Quick break. We shall return Bob Kravitz. And Bob Kravitz on the other side and a little over an hour away from Stephen Holder of ESPN. And Skinnerd tickets to give away as well. Sit tight. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Buttery smooth voice.
Oh, yeah.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
I think I saw where Ryan Leaf talked about McAfee being high all the time on his show. I don't know. Pat probably, hey, well, whatever. I saw Tony East had this for you. The Pacers plan to sign former Purdue wing Dakota Mathias to an Exhibit 10 contract. Mathias previously played for both the Sixers and the Grizzlies, and an Exhibit 10 deal is a one-year minimum salary contract with no other bonuses. And it gives NBA teams the ability to convert the contract into a two-way deal, but only if they do it before the start of the regular season, and usually non-guaranteed. Still, we've seen it before. But for Boilermaker fans, that from Tony East a little bit earlier. Actually, if you want to go back to the 3 o'clock hour, he had that for you right there. So, yeah, not too far down the road. Start of the NBA season and the Pacers, but getting started with the NFL and the Colts in over a week right now. College football, I guess, is officially underway with the upset of Florida State in Dublin on Saturday and the win by Georgia Tech. And then Jimmy Cook, did bet on like half a dozen games. Hell, I didn't even know played. And the Kurt Cignetti era begins on Saturday afternoon. And that and more for you. Meantime, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline from BobKravitz.com, the aforementioned Bob Kravitz not only is going to talk some sports, but will attend Pearl Jam hanging out with us later on tonight. Are you excited, buddy?
Cannot wait. That's one of the bands I've never seen live, and so tonight's going to be great.
How about your good friend sitting right here thinking about you? How about that? What a good dude.
Yeah, that was really nice of you. I truly appreciate it. I think after I gave you hell for not inviting me to the last one.
I did. I felt horrible when you did that.
No, I was just jerking your chain. Are you kidding? I appreciate any time you ask me, man.
You got it. I've never seen Pearl Jam either, and I'm often afraid a band of this magnitude that has had issues in stopping in Indy over decades now, that you don't know when the last time is going to be. So.
Yeah, exactly. No, hey, as long as I hear Even Flow, Alive, Last Kiss, Jeremy, Corduroy is one of my favorite songs.
Yeah, you'll hear 4 of the 5.
Better, I'll be very happy.
If they play Last Kiss, that's definitely a bathroom go-getter right there. I hate that song.
Yeah,
I do. I want Yellow Ledbetter, and it's occasionally on there, sometimes not. I think 4 of the 5 you mentioned, I think that they are pretty much always on there. The one I just played back in, Given to Fly, has been on. And again, there's not a lot to go on. And are you a set list observer before the gigs?
No, actually, I just saw it a couple of minutes ago, but I kind of accidentally fell across it. But no, are you?
I am. Yeah, I want to know when I go to the can.
Oh, okay. That's good thinking.
Yeah.
That's good thinking.
So there are probably some songs in the middle. If they played Last Kiss, that's definitely a canned song for me.
Definitely. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why. I just never have liked it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's not a Pearl Jam type of song.
Yeah. Exactly. But
you know what I mean?
I don't think Better Man's on it. I think Daughter occasionally is on it. They switch it around more than anybody else.
Yeah.
And they also evidently, they have 10-song encores, it seems, too. Not a lot of bands do that.
I saw that. I saw their encore list is like 8 songs. I'm like, good God.
Yeah.
But no, this is good. This is going to be great. I got my Uber set for 4:45, and I'm ready to go.
There you go. Bob Kravitz of BobKravitz.com is with us. You think that the WNBA has missed out on a couple of different circumstances? One, the way they started out the season with the schedule that really got the fever buried. And it was just odd the way that schedule started out and how rough it was, how many games were on it. And then coming up after the Olympic break, they play 2, they get 2 wins, and then they don't tip it back up for almost a week, and they lose on Saturday night in Minnesota. You think if there was a do-over opportunity, the WNBA schedule makers would do it over?
Yeah, I think so. Especially the beginning of the season, it was 11 out of 11 games in 19 days. They played all the top teams: Connecticut, New York. They played everybody, all the best teams, and like you said, they got buried. But to their great credit, Christy Sides included, they pulled it back together again, and I think this game against Atlanta is kind of important. That's the kind of game you got to win if you want to make the playoffs.
It's Bob Kravitz at bobkravitz.com with us. Yeah, importance, no doubt about that. All right, Ronnie Harrison, were you surprised that cut was made? I don't know how many other surprises you've seen, but did that one stand out?
That's the only one. That's the only one I went, okay. But no, none of them have really blown me away. I mean, Harrison, they weren't sure if he was a linebacker or a safety. But the other names I've seen so far are guys that I fully expected would not be here starting next week, or this week, I should say.
Yeah, it doesn't really stand out to me. I just kind of wonder what they're going to do with Jelani Woods. And I know James Boyd was talking about this in here a little bit earlier as well. Kevin Bowen and I had this conversation last Wednesday, and I kind of wondered if the Colts have just kind of reached the level of, all right, it's over, go someplace else. They don't necessarily have to do anything right now because the guy's going to miss 4 months, but it just kind of makes you wonder whether or not they believe the ship has sailed there for him.
Yeah, I think they do. I mean, obviously he's going to go on to IR. It's not like they can just, jettison him with this injury, but I've got to think that he's out of chances, and it's a shame because he seems to be a talented guy. He seems to be a really good guy. He just can't stay healthy. I mean, you remember, how many players have we said that about? You remember Anthony Gonzalez, really good player, but just couldn't stay healthy. So, no, it's going to be a tough situation for Jelani Woods. I think of all the tight ends, he probably has the most raw talent and the widest skill set, but unfortunately, he can't stay on the field.
Yeah, and I think we talked to Chris Ballard a couple of weeks ago. They don't really have anybody at that position that comes close to being everything that they want an individual tight end to be. So it is. It really is kind of a mix and match situation that they're just going to have to deal with because really nobody comes close to having every single aspect that they're looking for there.
Well, that's the reason that if you remember they try to trade up to number 6 in the draft, and according to your close personal friend Adam Schefter,
yes,
it was supposed to be Brock Bowers, the tight end from Georgia. Which would have made me very happy because I was screaming and yelling to go get him. But that tells you how they view their tight end room. They've got a lot of guys with skills in different areas, but they don't have that one guy who can kind of put it all together.
Yeah, and we'll see. I just think about that as with Shane Steichen, and I know that there's still a lot of proving ground to be had right here, but that's a guy like Brock Bowers, somebody that is a legitimate threat. And I'd love to see Colin Granson become kind of, a utility guy at that position. You think maybe he's got some of the pieces to it, but you just kind of wonder what you're leaving that's not on the table with Shane Steichen if he had somebody that was close to what they were looking for at that position.
Well, Steichen, everywhere he's been, San Diego / LA, and then in Philadelphia, he took major advantage of his tight ends. And, that I think that's something that it really minimizes his playbook because he doesn't have guys who can do everything. He doesn't have guys who can catch the ball and block. It seems to be one or the other. So it's a challenge for Steichen. And I think that's why they went after Bowers, because you can use him in any situation.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Bob Kravitz, bobkravitz.com, talking Colts and more He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So, we're over a week away from the start of the season right here. Knowing what you know right now, what's your feel as far as this team and its record, and then what it does within its own division starting in week number 1 at home against the Texans?
Here's my prediction. First of all, I think there's measured optimism around this team. I think people realize that Anthony Richardson is really raw, still is, even after playing 4 games last year. He's going to be boom or bust, maybe from possession to possession. I think they will go 10-7, and they will make the playoffs as a wild card team. That's my semi-official prediction. Sure to go wrong.
No, and if there's one thing,
what do you think? What are you picking?
I'm in a similar category. I haven't made mine official yet, but I'm in a similar category right there.
Okay.
I think that these division games are even more magnified than usual. And it's tough to really make that considering last year how important the final weekend of the regular season was, and they blew it at home against the Texans.
Right.
But I just think this division is going to be, Bob, much better than we have seen it in recent history.
I think the division's going to be better. I think, Jacksonville kind of fell to pieces late last year, but I think they'll be in the race till the end. Tennessee, I don't know what to make of Will Levis yet, but if he can be any good, they've certainly surrounded him with some guys. They've added Ridley and some other people who can make that a pretty decent offense. The important thing is that they get to the last 5 games, which are pretty easy on the schedule. Get to the last 5 games and put themselves in a position to make a late run and get in the playoffs. Because if you look at the late schedule, I don't have it in front of me, but you got Denver, New England. You got some sad teams in the back end of the schedule. So, I just stay in the battle, and I think the last month of the season is going to be huge.
I will say this. There is a comparison to be made, Bob, because the Pacers have a schedule that is in particular very front-loaded, and it looks, at least on paper, as down the stretch, very doable. And that's kind of the doable nature of the schedule is what we saw, if you remember, a year ago. We wanted to see them kickstart the end of the regular season in preparation for the postseason. I think they have their opportunity there. And I would tend to agree. I mean, we'll see how Tennessee looks late in December, and obviously Jacksonville to end the regular season with their own division. But you got to admire, I think, what the other teams are doing. Houston clearly loaded up. You see Tennessee trying to get a lot better around Levis, whether we're talking about offensively or defensively. And clearly in Jacksonville, they just think the gag job that they performed a year ago is one that they can get over in 2024 because they believe the talent is still there.
And it turns out that it's not against the rules to add a free agent.
Exactly.
Which, I did not know previously, having done my work here in Indianapolis. Apparently, you can get really good players sometimes if you spend the money in free agency, which is quite a shock to me.
I am glad you brought that up. And I think you and I have talked about this before. And I've brought this up before because normally when you talk about free agent, they have plenty of salary cap space remaining. And they could have done something with Simmons at safety. They could have done something with Diggs at safety. Mm-hmm. They could have done, things, whatever they wanted to do in the secondary to make that situation better. And they decided not to. And most often than not, Bob, and you know this, people will say, hey, this is all Ballard because Jim Irsay just says, I'll write a check for whatever you believe. Do you think that saying is now kind of old and maybe crusty compared to writing a check for whatever it is from the Colts owner?
I have questions about Jim's commitment to doing whatever it takes. Let's put it that way. He likes to say all chips in. I haven't seen the chips, and they certainly ain't in. I think in the past he's been willing to do whatever it takes, but how much of that's the $1 million question here. How much of this is Chris Ballard being stubborn, and how much of it is the guy who writes the paychecks not wanting to write the paychecks. And that we don't know. I've had one agent tell me that he thought that Jim had gone cheap in recent years, but I don't know. Ballard, to me, and I've said this 1,000 times, to me, Ballard's got to get this team to the playoffs this year, or it's very hard for me to justify bringing him back for yet another year.
What's weird about that is when I talked to him nearly now a couple of weeks ago in Westfield, I didn't get the indication that he felt any pressure whatsoever. None. I mean, he acted like a dude that would go into year 9 even if they don't make the postseason. And that could be him because, we know how he is personality-wise and what he presents. That could be just him, but that's the way I felt. He didn't act like he was a dude that had a care in the world about being worried about his gig in the here and the now.
Well, he's been a survivor. I mean, there's not a lot of GMs who could go through 7 years with this kind of production and still feel comfortable. So good for him. If he has a boss, which he apparently does, who's going to stick with him through thin and thin, then good for him. I wish I had some bosses like that.
What do you think it is? Is your theory regarding Jim Irsay and where he is right now? Is that certainly, and understandably so, if it's regarding health? Is it more health, or did it have anything to do with the disaster he created, the circus he created in 2022?
I think there's some of both there. I think 2022 he got very involved and made a complete mess of things, but he's been through a lot health-wise, and I don't know the answer to this question because I've never asked him. But when you go through health crises, something fundamentally changes in a person. And I found that to be true after my heart situation. So it may be that Jim is not as focused on spending whatever it takes to win. It may be that he is willing to spend that money, and Chris Ballard is just stubborn. And we don't know the answer to that with 100% certainty.
You know what we do know? We do know that following the whole Manning era and then at the beginning of the Luck era, the fans were promised, and they reflect on this all the time, that the Manning era was going to be the gold standard, and that's what to expect. And if there was a fall off, if something happened, if there was an injury, to expect them to get right back up there. And it's been basically, Bob, a mess. Like when you think about it, you couldn't even go to the AFC title game right. Seriously, because you get your doors blown off, and then that's with the story that you had, that nugget that you had. I mean, basically, it was a team-wide embarrassment for a long time because of the way they went about it. I mean, you can't even do that right. It has been, since they let Manning go, it has been 80+% a huge downer, which is even worse than the early years, because in the early years you just thought, hey, they stink, and that's the way that it is. We're glad we have a team. But after you're told this is what you need to expect, and you're not anywhere near those level of expectations, and I think rightly so, the fan base becomes salty.
Oh, we got so spoiled here. I mean, so spoiled. Not only Peyton, but then to move into Andrew Luck. I always felt like those couple of years with Phillip Rivers and Carson Wentz and everybody else, that was just karma. We had it too good for too long with those two guys, and now we're finding out how the rest of the world lives. We're finding out what the Cleveland Browns went through for many years, and the Denver Broncos, who are still hoping to find the replacement for Peyton Manning. A lot of teams are like that, and I think Richardson's the guy, but I think it's still an open question. I think he's going to have rookie moments. I think he's going to have wow moments. And I think it's going to change from possession to possession.
It is. It is. And it's going to be future Hall of Famer to guy that couldn't start in the Arena League. on a series-by-series basis. That's exactly. I thought Thursday was a great example of how it was going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think, look, every game is going to be a referendum on Anthony Richardson. We're going to have a lot of columns saying he's the real deal, and we're going to have a lot of columns saying he can't play dead. So, I just think we have to be patient. I think that this is a guy who's just going to take some time. He didn't play a lot in high school. He only played 13 games at the University of Florida. He only played 4 games last year, 173 snaps. So we need to keep that in mind and be patient with a guy who's got athletic talent that no other quarterback has ever had before.
Here's the thing about Ballard, too, in that reflection. We have you rarely see a general manager that has high levels of success go this long with one team. I mean, it's been somewhat of not a complete rarity, but somewhat of a rarity to have success and to go this long without, maybe a specific Super Bowl win or a high level of success will still get you God oftentimes in here. That's why you look at, his 7 years as amazing, absolutely amazing. He's able to withstand those lack of results, which was even more surprising when he was talking to me. What it seemed like was a lack of pressure going into year number 8, where there is so much of a mystery as to how this team is going to be.
Well, it's been interesting. I think he's a good survivor. He says the right things. I'm sure behind closed doors, he says the right things. He's a good politician. I don't say that in a nasty way, but he just is. He's good with the media. He's good dealing with Jim. He's good dealing with Shane. But, 7 years going on 8, and you haven't won an AFC South. Now, granted, you get the Andrew Luck get-out-of-jail-free card, but that expires after 2 or 3 years. It's time to turn the corner and to win 10 games, get to the playoffs, and get this team on a new trajectory.
It's Bob Kravitz at bobkravitz.com on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So Jim McCann tells me this in Southern California. Pearl Jam played Yellow Ledbetter as their final encore song in 5 consecutive concerts. Broke the streak in their last concert in Missoula, Montana. I believe last week is when that streak was broken.
Okay. I'd be perfectly happy with that, or Even Flow. Or maybe Jeremy.
You'll get Even Flow, I think, about 4 or 5 on the list. Jeremy, probably around 10 will be there.
So who not to have a personal conversation on the air, but it's you, me, and who else?
Sarah, our good friend Sarah, who is a huge fan of yours, had reached out and said, hey, does Bob want to go? And I said, I bet
nice
Bob does want to go. So,
yes. I'll have to
we're hanging with Sarah. I think J-Law is going to be up in there somewhere, too. So, yes.
Okay,
and,
sounds good.
My friend Doug is going to slide by and get me, and I think I'm going to go to Mystic Waters and get a shuttle bus ride over there, I believe. So.
Okay, that sounds like a good idea.
And then next weekend is going to be crazy. Next weekend at Mystic Waters Campground, Friday and Saturday, it is going to be a lunatic Labor Day weekend. I can't wait.
Will you believe that I've never gone camping?
I haven't either. I'm staying in a cabin. No. I don't want to stay in any tent or anything. Now, listen, I think it'd be fun, and I hope people do it, right? I do, because there are no cabins left, but I got to have a little AC, man. I need some AC.
Yeah. You're soft. I get it.
I know. I've never been camping. Never slept outside. Yeah. I've slept outside, but not, sleeping bag in a tent or next to a campfire or anything like that ever.
Okay.
I've passed out outside in the grass and things like that.
I mean, it makes sense for me never to have camped because I grew up, in New York. But you being from southern Indiana, I would think that would be part of your deal.
Hey, I hunted mushrooms. I know people that go out and look for ginseng root. And
really?
I probably have people cooking meth on my property right now as we speak. But I've never camped.
Okay.
Matter of fact, that's a guarantee somebody is back there in the wilderness doing just that. It's a guarantee.
Oh, Lord.
So I have nothing to do with it, by the way. But anyway.
Of course not.
All right. We'll see you whenever we see you later on tonight, man. Get ready for a little veteran
Sounds
Pearl
good.
Jam. All right, buddy.
All right.
So
All right, man.
Bob
Take
Kravitz.
care. Thanks again.
You got it. BobKravitz.com. See, Sean writes this, and I'll tell you what, good springboard, and we'll play off of this comment and get to you on the other side. If you're a Colts fan and you're upset because Jim promised you a gold standard, you're an idiot. Of course, all owners say that. That's something he could never control. Being an idiot fan, I'm sure, doesn't bother Jim. That's sports. I will guarantee being where they have been bothers him. I would guarantee the fans thinking the way they do and being tired of what is going to happen, what they expect to happen, because that doesn't stop him from telling you that all chips are in, and this guy is great, and this guy's Shula-like, and this guy's a blue chip evaluator. That doesn't stop him. So, of course, the fans are going to be upset. You set those expectations, and I don't think all owners do that at that level. It's just different. I'll tell you, we'll play off of Sean's comment on the other side at 239-1070. Email address is jmv at 1075thefan.com if you want to send me something there. Of course, next week we'll have some Bullseye Event Group passes for you. Because the Colts VIP tailgate will start again for week number 1 at home against Houston. That is coming up next week. Stephen Holder's going to join us coming up in the 5 o'clock hour, and Leonard Skinner tickets as well. That and more on the way. Stay right there. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
Nick, give him your wallet.
What for?
He's got a knife.
That's not a knife. That's a knife.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
You know, the lover of things of the 1990s, you know, like this song from Pearl Jam, like Pearl Jam in general, going back to 10, the album, or going back to when their name was originally, James?
I didn't realize they had another name besides Pearl
Mookie
Jam.
Blaylock.
I'm glad they went with Pearl Jam.
Mookie Blaylock was an NBA player.
Really?
Mookie Blaylock.
And they named their band after him?
Yep. And then they obviously you couldn't do that.
Yeah.
So they went with Pearl Jam, and their album 10 is Mookie Blaylock's number. 10.
I never
in
knew
the
that.
NBA. They were all big time. They're big time sports fans anyway. But I think Mike McCready was a huge NBA fan, and you know when they were going at the very early stages. I mean, that was the Supersonics with Sean Kemp and Gary Payton. That was a hell of a group right there. Derek McKee before he got traded, and then Detlef Schrempf after McKee got traded here. But big-time sports fans and big-time NBA fans. That's why you always look at Seattle. If there is, and I don't consider Baltimore, but if there is a place that got a franchise taken away, and there's still no franchise there that deserves it back, would be that of Seattle with the Supersonics. That was just epic. And really, you look at it, it was multi-era. It was the 70s. Well, they win in 1979, I think. The NBA title in 79 was that Dennis Johnson and downtown Fred Brown, Jack Sikma, I think, was a part of that. And then the late 80s, you know, once Sean Kemp got out there with the Rayman of the 90s, what a hell of a team. Good times. And one of the greatest logos of all time. And then obviously Pearl Jam cutting their teeth, if you will, in the Seattle area and what was that growing scene of the late 80s and early 90s. And a lot of crossover there for sure. The awesome Jeanette B. writes this. My dad always said my idea of going camping would be me cracking a window open in a hotel. You know what, though? The difference in me, Jeanette, I love staying at a hotel. First thing I do if I can is go in there and crank up the AC to, like, unheard of levels. I just crank it. Paulie says the only camping JMV does is along the three-point line and hoop. Let me tell you this, Paulie. Last week I was playing. And I recognized this for the first time, and I know that it's got a lot to do, like I am evolving a little bit as a 54-year-old dude. Like I'm using the QC Kinetics on the knee. That's feeling better. Premier Weight Loss has got me down 26 pounds in 2 months. And I've always told you that by the time I'm 60, I'm going to have all new parts. Like the whole body, everything is going to be new. It's kind of like when you find a Plymouth Roadrunner in somebody's barn and you redo it, I'm going to look like that. At least that's the plan. At any rate, I discovered last week that I didn't mind D'ing it up a little bit. I don't like the moving. The lateral movement I can do without. Brad Stevens always said, you got to guard your yard. I still guard, probably more like a centimeter left or right. But I do now provide just a little bit of resistance, whereas over the past 10 years, there's been zero. No desire, no resistance, nothing. But a shout-out to Thomas and Premier Weight Loss and Drew and the gang at QC Kinetics. You have all new body parts. I've got to have that here soon. By the time I'm 60, I think what's next, you know what I need next, James? I need eyes. I got to get some eyes.
Get some bionic eyes.
I need some because, I'm struggling reading stuff now, especially small print.
You thought about getting LASIK?
LASIK. I need LASIK. I'm afraid to put on these reading glasses I buy at CVS because I'm afraid that once I take them off, I won't be able to see a damn thing.
I don't know if that's how that works, but
everything's going to be blurry. So, yeah, I don't want to hold up an old magnifying glass like our grandmas used to all the time reading the TV guide.
Should get a monocle.
Yeah, monocle like Mr. Peanut. Thinking about that. But I think I need new eyes next, new eyeballs. So, yes. That is on the agenda. But thank you, Jeanette. Thank you, Paulie, for that. This from Sean. Maybe idiot was too harsh, but isn't the ride as a fan what makes sports what it is? The last Super Bowl meant the world to me because of the journey. Sean, I will say this. I think that you can still feel that way because I feel the same about Super Bowl 41. When people bring up, hey, they should have won 2 or they didn't win enough, it's when people begrudge that era, that's what pisses me off. When you get jackasses that make fun of it and they didn't win enough and have to gripe about it. You know, every time somebody from that era goes into the Pro Football Hall of Fame and then ultimately you hear that, you hear people talk down about that era, those are idiots. You can still celebrate that, but expect more because that was the turning point to where you had an elite level organization. And you know, let's face it, through circumstances beyond their control or circumstances that their control created, it has been a circus here for a while. And people want that circus to end. And people want to get back to what was supposed to be the standard. So that to me is different. Michael says, so apparently no bread since it was handed out at the Last Supper. I have not had bread in 2 months. Not in 2 months. You know what's funny? I never thought about even doing this either. I always thought, yeah, I feel good. I'm going to do it. But I feel even better now. If I'm trying this, James. I'm trying to lose 40 by Halloween.
And you're down 26?
I'm down 26. I'm trying to do 40 by Halloween.
I mean, you only got 14 more to go. Looks like you're well on your way.
40 by Halloween. So I wanted to get down to 180, which was I was. And people said, don't do that. I want to see what it feels like to be 180 again.
That's about where
I'm going to feather my hair and part it down the middle and look like Steve Alford. That's my plan. I'm going to look like Steve Alford in 1983. I'm going to start practicing more on my jump shot and having somebody hold a broom on a folding chair at the elbow. We all used to run that drill. TJ's at 239-1070. Hello, TJ. How are you?
Hey, bro. I'm good. How are you doing?
Great. Go ahead.
Yeah, I watched the game last year. I think Troy Aikman was doing the commentary for it, and it was one of those crossers that ends up in the left pocket at 12 to 15 yards. And Anthony throws it high, and Troy said, you know, that's the throw that a starting NFL quarterback's going to have to make.
Yeah.
And that was last year, and I noticed that he's kind of missing it again, you know, this year. And what you guys are telling me that, you know, he's going to have a good game, he's going to have a bad game, and he's played quarterback for about 35 minutes, and I totally agree. And Chicago fans and Chicago media, they were on that ride for 2.5 years. So can you tell me at the end of what year is the expiration date for Anthony, that we're still going to be talking about this? Is it the end of this year, next year, year 4, year 5?
It is this year and next. And believe me, he's going to be lucky. There's going to be criticism, harsh criticism regardless, because people around here have waited too long, and then you go through a rookie season. You can say fair or unfair too, TJ, but the criticism is going to be there. And you know, that comes with not getting the reps a year ago as a rookie. And it also comes with, to me, apprehension to believe in what he can become that also plays into the fact that there's apprehension in just the decision-making in general that's gone around here. You just expect the worst. Let's face it, fans around here, for the most part, TJ, they expect the worst out of everything. And the only way to climb out of that expectation, believe me, the Pacers had that as well. The only way to climb out of that is to start doing things consistently, positively, better. And I mean in all areas, all layers, on the field, off the field, player personnel decision-making, all of it, coaching area. And until they do that and show that consistently, and just not something one week and then a mess the next week, or not getting close to the postseason with a backup quarterback, or blaming it on the quarterback position, or until you shake loose, the fans do, of that thought and what that's going to take as proof, then there's going to be a high level of criticism. But all in all, it's not going to really come to pass until you go through next year. That's just the way that it is. Anything else?
No, that's it, brother. All right, 2 years.
Yeah, I know. Are you ready for 2 years? Are you ready? Are you ready for 2 years?
I'll do it. 2 years.
I mean, when you think about it, if let's just say, for example, when you heard Herb Street on Thursday night, right? Talked about, hey, what if this team needs Joe Flacco to go in? And he was talking about the lack of efficiency of Richardson. If he's costing them games and you decide to put Flacco in, that's when you fire everybody. That's when everybody goes. That's when it all ends right there. Now, if he goes in because of injury, okay, that's why he's here, as an insurance policy like Minshew was a year ago. But if he goes out there, if the decision, according to Kirk Herbstreit, happens because of the lack of effectiveness, there's no more belief, and then everybody gets the gate. Everybody gets canned.
Yeah, I mean, I love Herbie, but yeah, this year.
And that sounds like something stupid that I would say. It really did.
2 years. I mean, if it's still happening in 2 years, yeah, you got to move on. All right,
DJ, thank you for the call. I appreciate you. Yeah, it's just that's the way that it is. We've called it a reboot. I don't know if you're going to get 8 like the general manager, but you're not. But that's the way to look at it. We have described what you're about to see this season as a roller coaster. It's going up and it's going down. And then we'll see the type of success. And I think TJ wanted to compare it to Fields in Chicago and how they finally said enough is enough and made some savvy moves to get to where they ultimately got. But, yeah, you got this year, and then you're on the hook fully next year. Yeah, I know you guys don't want to hear that, and I wish I could tell you something to where, hey, you know what, it's got to be by next week. But that would be untrue. Quick break. We'll return. Stephen Holder, top of the hour. Anybody else on that list of cuts that may surprise you? That and more with Stephen Holder, top of the hour. AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. Thank you guys for watching today, participating, and just being you. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
Don't read your email, because I'm really butthurt when you read your email.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
James over there. I'm John. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to give a shout-out to Heaven Hill Distillery. Romy was a stand-in for Brent Holverson on Friday at Sid's Bar and Grill in Noblesville. Saw so many of you there. And Romy had told me we broke the daytime sales record for Sid's on Friday. That's awesome. Now, obviously, the nighttime is always going to be different, but getting up there in the daytime to see Michael and the gang, it was outstanding, and I'm hoping I can get back. That's exactly the type of place that we want, that we describe with a tavern tour. And as I always say, if you have a place, or if somebody you know, if they have a place that fits that particular criteria, that makes sense to you, let me know, let somebody know, and we'll get those wheels in motion. But I had a tremendous time. And a shout-out to Michael and the gang at Sid's. Sid's Bar and Grill on the Square in Noblesville, where their tavern tour stop. Yeah, if you're asking if you did not hear on Friday, our next stop coming up in September is the Bulldog on College, so cannot wait for that. But well done, our good friends at Sid's. Absolutely well done. I was going to mention this as well. So Friday and Saturday, actually Thursday, we're at Eagle Creek, and there's going to be a fundraiser going on with NHRA. I think Antron Brown's going to join the show at some point. Is Orlovsky on the show on Thursday too? All right. And Dan Orlovsky talks some football from ESPN. Antron Brown, I think Tony Stewart is going to be a part of the show. Morgan Lucas, all coming up on Thursday because the Super Bowl of drag racing always comes to town this time of year, and that's the NHRA U.S. Nationals. So that's on Thursday at Eagle Creek, and we'd love to see you out there. We'll be out there at the clubhouse coming up on Thursday. Now, meantime, Friday, Saturday, Mystic Waters Campground, and the full schedule is awesome. I do know this on Friday. Friday night, there are still cabins available. Friday night. Saturday night for the JMV takeover, the cabins are sold out. But Friday night, still cabins as of right now available if you want to call up there and ask about it. But it's basically a backyard broadcast. Ford's Garage and Richard will have food while it lasts. Heaven Hill, going to have a little bourbon tasting going on. Food trucks on site. Yeah, basically 3 until 10 for that on Friday. I'd say 6 until 10 for the food trucks on site. My fault. 7 until 9, Mikkel Robertson. Cosmic Coveralls, live music, 7 until 9. That is coming up on Friday. And I know a lot of you are going to head out to Ruoff. That's Hagar and Loverboy on Friday. But we're going to be doing this show Friday. That's at Mystic Waters Campground, where there's still cabins available for Friday night. Saturday night, it's going to be the JMV takeover. The cabins are sold out. Still camping space to tent camp if you want to. We'd love to see you up there on Saturday for the JMV takeover as it is live. DJ Skids will be there performing live as well, doing his stuff on the air in front of you as a part of the JMV takeover on Saturday. And I guess this is interesting to me, James. The Adult Olympics, free for anyone staying or with day passes. This is on Saturday. The Adult Olympics, foosball, cornhole, pong, large Jenga, and kayak races. The Adult Olympics.
Oh, wow.
Food trucks from 3 until 6. Grilled cheese station there on Saturday night during the JMV takeover, too. So I'd just love to see you. And I mentioned this, we all need a getaway like that. Labor Day weekend, a little bit of a party atmosphere going. Actually, more than a little bit. That's going to be great. Friday and Saturday, the JMV takeover Labor Day weekend bender with Heaven Hill Distillery, Mystic Waters Campground, Ford's Garage. and all of our friends up there. Absolute blast it will be. So hopefully we shall see you there, and you can stop to. You don't necessarily have to stay, but you can stop and hang out with us. We'd love to see everybody up there. Let me know. That's pretty cool. JMV, I'm not trying to hate on your boy Pat, but when he comes back for a third hour of his show, the part not on ESPN, those eyes are a little lower. Good. Probably make my show better if I did that. I think going into my third hour here, my eyes need to be low. What's that mean, eyes low? Has that got some kind of weedish?
Yeah, you like get red-eyed and glassy-eyed and you squint.
A little bit low. All right. Probably make my 5 o'clock hour a hell of a lot better. I should be doing that too. CeeDee Lamb, $136 million is the reported deal for the Cowboys wide receiver. Juju Smith-Schuster back in Kansas City as a member of the Chiefs. A lot of stuff going on, and a week leading up to week number 1 of the college football season. Got that and more coming up for you. Top of the hour, Stephen Holder with the Cutdowns still to come. Tomorrow's going to be a major day. Hey, by the way, tomorrow is Danny O'Neal on the show tomorrow. The former Cathedral High School quarterback is a true freshman starter at San Diego State. Danny O'Neal joins us on the show coming up tomorrow. And I also should give a shout-out because Greg Rakestraw is going to be here tomorrow on a week 1 in what was fantastic in high school football. And from what I gather, Westfield looked really good down at CG on Friday night from what I gathered. And how about Cathedral, speaking of the Irish, on the road at Ben Davis on Friday? Yeah, some impressive performances across the state of Indiana. And week number 2, we'll talk about that and more on the start of the college football season with Greg Rakestraw tomorrow and Danny O'Neal, the quarterback formerly of Cathedral, the true freshman starter out at San Diego State, going to join us coming up on the show. That is tomorrow. All right, quick break. We'll come back. Stephen Holder coming up, ESPN, ESPN.com, and your chance at Skinnerd tickets in the 5 o'clock hour. Don't go away. AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. Check them out later on tonight up at Ruoff before Pearl Jam as well. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
There are rules. 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
James over there, I'm John. JMV at 107.5thefan.com. Yeah, busy rest of the week. Check your local listings to find out where we're going to be, but hopefully we can meet at some point all together. Hope you had a great weekend. Bob Kravitz a little bit earlier. Donald Thomas, the former Colts offensive lineman, has a podcast on the Believe podcasting network. Was really good and hour number one. And speaking of podcasts, you can find ours with the former Colts lineman and Bob Kravitz. 1075thefan.com. I mentioned Danny O'Neal penciled in for tomorrow, the true freshman starter from Cathedral. He will start at quarterback for San Diego State. Remember, initially he was going to Colorado and playing for Coach Prime, and then ultimately changed his mind, and he is now at San Diego State as a true freshman starter. He joins us tomorrow. Greg Rakestraw on the show tomorrow, and as I mentioned, a busy week on Thursday. Dan Orlovsky of ESPN and Antron Brown and many of the NHRA drivers will join us at Eagle Creek coming up on Friday. And I think Brent Halverson is back as our betting analyst on Friday as well. So be ready for that. Eagle Creek Golf Club. Check that. I said on Friday. On Thursday. My apologies. On Thursday at Eagle Creek Golf Club for that. We'll look for you then. Meantime, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline from ESPN and ESPN.com, it is Stephen Holder with us. So on a scale of 1 to 10, the whole Harrison cutting, what kind of vibrations did that give you if you're going to put a number on it?
Not a lot. I mean, I don't think it was seismic or anything. I mean, notable for sure. But here's why I don't think it's a huge deal. I think if you paid attention to training camp like every day, because I have to be there every day, so it is what it is. Anyway, if you watched every day, I think it became apparent that he was not really a factor in this whole safety situation. I think the NFL and this may be harsh, I don't know, sorry if it is, but I think the NFL kind of made up its mind about him as a safety some time ago. I mean, he was on the market last season or last year. I think sort of middle of the off season. He was on the market as a safety because that's what he had played, and no one was interested. No one picked him up. And when rosters were at 90 men, what happened is the Colts signed him and said, "We want to try him as a cover linebacker," and that I thought actually did bear some results. I thought that's where his upside was. So once they moved him away from that and they moved him back to safety, I thought that was detrimental to his situation going forward, because the new optimism about him came when he was playing linebacker last year, and he did make a few plays, and he did have some plays in the preseason, but I just thought as camp wore on, I didn't think he was ultimately going to rise to the top of that situation there. You know, whatever thoughts we may have about Nick Cross, I thought Nick Cross had separated himself there. So anyway, that's kind of where things are at there. I thought it was, as I said, detrimental to him once they moved him back to safety. I thought his upside was at linebacker, so it was going in the wrong direction, I think, once he got moved, unfortunately.
Has the described Nick Cross play at safety eased the concerns and some of the minds around those covering the Colts?
Well, I would say this about Nick Cross. I think if you play him at strong safety, I think it's workable. I'm not saying it's what I would do. I'm just saying it's workable. I think if you have Nick Cross at strong safety, Julian Blackmon at free safety, I think that lineup it's workable, which is not a huge compliment, right? But I do think they can make it work. And the reason I say that is because I think he's less exposed as strong safety. I think it's more of his natural position, at least the way he's played. I think that's been a better position for him, put it that way. I think the communication problems and the miscues on the back end have been the problem. It's not necessarily Nick Cross as a player, as a football player, like ability so much. It's just, can you trust him as your last line of defense? And when he's at free safety, I just think so much of the responsibility to stop those huge explosive plays falls on him. And if you have a lack of trust there, I'm not saying that. I'm just posing the question. I'm saying, can you trust him, right? If you have any doubts about whether you can trust him on the back end there, the very last line of defense, in a defense that is largely a single deep safety defense, well, I'm not sleeping good at night if that's the case. So at strong safety, I think you're a little more in the mix, and certainly you can't just screw up out there and have it not matter. It matters. All I'm saying is I don't think it costs you nearly as much if you do screw up. So on the flip side, real quick, I do think that Julian Blackmon's playmaking ability last year at strong safety really showed up. So you're going to lose that if you move him to free safety, although he contends that he feels like he can make plays in this defense as a free safety. So we'll see if that holds true. But I don't know. That's what I'd do. If it were up to me, if those were the personnel I was given, that's what I'd do. Blackmon at free safety, Nick Cross at strong.
So Stephen Holder for ESPN and ESPN.com is on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. And clearly the position of quarterback is much more impactful, the most position in any sport anywhere. But in comparison, how good do you feel comparing the quarterback to the back end of this defense at safety, at corner? What do you have more questions about? And again, understanding the magnitude of quarterback is going to be much more important. But how do you compare, the positions, safety, cornerback, to that of the question marks we have with Anthony Richardson at quarterback?
I would say the question for me is probably bigger in the secondary, personally. I think here's a couple of reasons why. Number one, well, first of all, let me just back up. I think you're posing an interesting question because here's the context around that. This league is increasingly about two things. Can your quarterback make plays, and can you stop the other team's quarterback? I mean, I get that that's an oversimplification, okay? But what decides games? Those two things. What decided Week 18? The other quarterback made a couple more plays. I mean, that's what it boils down to, right? So talking about the Colts and Texans last season. So,
right.
Just on a very, very, very molecular level, that is what the NFL has been reduced to. Just because the importance of the quarterback has been heightened so much because of the rules, because of the money, because of all of that. It's a have and have not league. So the Colts got to find out if they have one. But I do think they saw some indications last season that they have one. It's not a finished product, and he's got a long way to go because most 22-year-old quarterbacks do. But I think we have a higher floor there. We know what he's capable of. I think on the back end, much more of a mystery in terms of how that's going to go. And I do think the stakes are really high. So, look, there is something to be said for letting guys learn and grow who have potential. I do understand that theory and that approach. I don't think it's terrible if you have the right guys. The question is, do they have the right guys?
Steven, Shane Steichen was on Rich Eisen earlier, and he answered the question regarding running Anthony Richardson in a similar fashion as he's answered your questions, my questions, and others, where he's not going to limit his quarterback. Yeah, all right, fine. You're not going to limit it, but how often do you expect they go to it? Because you can still say that and then get away with more erring on the side of caution as how you're handling your quarterback. Is that true, or is this just him being upfront and honest about it?
Well, I do think he's being honest, but that doesn't mean it's going to be a free-for-all and they're going to just run him into the ground. I actually don't think or don't expect that to be the case. A couple things I would say. Number one, Shane doesn't like to give away tactical plans. That's like a big thing with him, right? So he'll answer the question, but he may not go into detail, or he just might be sort of broad or whatever, right? And so if you take that into account here, maybe I'm overthinking it, but here's what could be happening. He certainly wants teams to think that they're going to run the hell out of their quarterback because that is one of their biggest threats. So here's what he's going to do. I think he's going to run him enough to, number one, obviously to make the plays they need to make. I mean, that's obvious, right? I mean, if it's 3rd and 3 and that's your best call, they're going to call a run, right? It is what it is. But in the grander sense, I think there's also this. You want him to be enough of a factor that the defense has to always account for the possibility. And that's where somewhat of a head game comes into play, I should say. And I don't know if that's what he's doing here. I'm not sure. All I'm saying is I do think that is a component of how they move forward. Run him enough to make the plays he needs to make. If you got to have it, you got to have it, right? Then at that point, all bets are off. But it's also like we want him to be a factor, whether he runs it or not. You want the running ability of Anthony Richardson to be a component that the defense has to account for on every single play. And you do that by setting a tone, by throwing it in there when they maybe don't expect it, right? Or when they let their guard down. That's how you get them. I mean, and I think Shane's great at this because, there's a lot of good play callers in the NFL, but Shane, you talk to people around the league, one of the things they will tell you is that Shane has a knack for knowing just when to push the right button. That's the hardest part, right? There's that chess match with the defensive coordinator. Shane's great at just having a feel for when's the right time to make a call. And so I think this is really going to play well into his hands because he has just, a real wild card there in Anthony's running ability.
There's a lot of confidence, certainly, Stephen, in Shane Steichen with his offense. Yeah. If there is one play,
I will tell you, by the way, I will add to what you're saying there. Sorry to cut you off, but it is your show. But but I will tell you, like, Shane is a cocky SOB. Okay, when it comes time to like talking in private about like how confident they are, he thinks this offense can kill. I mean, he is like ready. We'll see, okay? All I'm telling you is, like, this guy is ready. He thinks they got something here. It's not just a quarterback. It's the skill guys, too. Like, he thinks they're going to kill it on offense. And, look, everybody feels great this time of year. But I'm just telling you, Shane Steichen, like, I think your instincts about him are right. Like, he is feeling it. He thinks they really, really got something.
All right. Is there one individual that we may not be thinking about right now in the offensive mix that you think we will talk a lot about production-wise this season? Somebody we're not talking about, but we will be because of the production, and it will be a surprise. Who is that?
That's a good question. There's a couple. I guess this is maybe a guy we have talked about a little bit, but I know that A.D. Mitchell is all the rage right now. I love A.D. Mitchell. I think he's going to be a great player for them. But I would also say I think there's going to be a few big plays from Alec Pierce that maybe are going to surprise people. I don't know that we should be surprised because I think he has the big play ability. What he's lacked is opportunity. But they haven't given up on him. Clearly they haven't given up. And they still think that he has that big play ability. I think it's up to them to get him in position to make those plays. I would not be surprised if there are some instances this year where they go to Alec Pierce and no one is expecting the ball to go there in that particular situation. And the reason for that is, number one, he certainly has ability, for those who have forgotten. He does have ability, number one. Number two, Shane Steichen, this kind of goes along with what I've been saying, he has a knack for giving everybody an opportunity, getting everybody involved. He really does. And if there's a look that he likes on tape, a matchup that he likes on tape, and he likes the particular route with that particular receiver, he's going to give that guy an opportunity, even if it isn't Michael Pittman or Josh Downs or whoever gets the volume targets. So I think he's in a good situation, right quarterback, right coach. I think Alec Pierce is going to be a factor for them this year. The other guy maybe is Will Mallory. Now, he caught some passes last year, so I don't think anyone will be shocked. But I think there's a lot of upside there that maybe, we shouldn't overlook. We'll see. And I'm not saying that because he's a Miami guy, although that doesn't hurt. But I do like his upside. I think he has a chance to really be a matchup problem and the type of tight end that they don't really have. They don't really, or they have not had, I think, for a while. I'm not saying he's going to be Dallas Clark, but he's in that vein in terms of the type of athlete, the type of body type, that kind of thing, So we'll see. I mean, that's a hell of a high bar. He ain't going to be Dallas Clark, I don't think, but I think he can be a guy who's a difficult matchup if you can kind of get it going.
Stephen Holder from ESPN's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So was the handling on Thursday in Cincinnati of Matt Gay a combination of, he's going to be just fine, and that's our belief, and let's give this Schrader guy, some looks around the NFL and then cut him, 3 days later or whatever. Was it all to do with that? Because if there was, I don't want to say mystery, that's too strong, but if there were some questions I would have about that, I thought for sure they would try to get Matt Gay back into somewhat of a useful groove, and clearly they didn't feel the need. Why was it?
No, I think you're absolutely right. If they had any question whatsoever about Matt Gay, you would think he would have kicked at least once or twice. He did not. And it is because, from what I have been told, they don't have concerns. Whether you agree that they should feel that way, that's up to the individual, but that's where they're at. They don't see any issue there now. Number one, he's going to be their kicker, right? I mean, there's no mystery there for starters. So it's not as if in their mind there's an alternative. So it's Matt Gay, right? If he has some terrible year or something, then we got to talk about next year. Or if he crumbled or something, right? I don't anticipate that. But I mean, if something that we can't even conceive happened, then maybe the unthinkable could happen. But short of that, he's their kicker this year, right? So there's not a lot of mystery to it, I think, in their mind. And I do, though, wonder, I have no idea, and no one has said this, and I have no evidence of it. I do wonder if he tweaked something. Does he have some kind of a tweak, physical tweak, injury of some kind, minor? I don't know. That would explain it. It might explain some things. But all I can tell you is they clearly have no concerns there, and he's their guy, and he's the kicker unless and until something unfathomable happens.
Yeah, it just didn't seem like that they handled that like they didn't have a care in the world.
Yeah.
And let's just face it, the results of the preseason would not, to me, explain it that way. So it was odd.
Yeah, I mean, I think questions are fair. Questions are fair. And, look, the answers will come soon enough. And if there's problems getting into when we get to the regular season, well, then they really are on the hot seat and have to answer some questions at that point. So all we can do for now is give them a little benefit of the doubt, like a little, right? But also, I think keep one eye open. So, time will tell. We'll know pretty soon here.
They thought they were going to get the luxury of having the emergency quarterbacks availability on the live action roster. Evidently, as reported earlier today, that is not going to be the case. So my assumption is they carry two. Sam goes to the practice squad, and hallelujah. I mean, is that how they're going to handle it to you? They're not going to have three there, are they?
I mean, that's what I'd do.
You would have three?
No. I would do what you laid out.
Okay.
I would put Sam on the practice squad. Obviously he'll take a hit money-wise there, so that sucks. But it's what I would do. I think that, look, your backup is clearly Joe Flacco. I mean, there's no mystery there. Unless your roster is such that you have so much flexibility in terms of the numbers that roster spot doesn't matter to you, then go ahead and keep him on the 53 by all means. But I mean, if you have any tough decisions at all at positions of consequence, I think those take precedent for me over the number 3 quarterback. the one mitigating factor is if you think someone would claim him off waivers or sign him to their active roster, when clears waivers, whatever, right? If you think someone would steal him or poach him, then you have a decision to make. Personally, I think as a number 3 quarterback, I think if you're claiming a guy, he has to be in play for being your number 2. I'm talking about the outside team, the competing team. And I don't know if that's going to happen at this point where he would be coming into a situation where he doesn't know their offense, has no background with whatever team that might be. I think the odds of that are minimal, personally. That's what I think. I could be wrong. And if there are injuries after the season goes along or gets started, obviously that could change things somewhere else in the league. But I think as we sit here today, I'm not terribly worried about it. If you cut him and then you have an issue at quarterback, you can always promote him the next week and keep him up as long as you want. So, I think you just go ahead and put him on the practice squad and give yourself that flexibility with the remaining, 53 spots.
So, Steven, I think it's run its course here, and I'm talking about Jelani Woods. Now, obviously, he's going to be gone for a length of time. I'm assuming they don't have a huge reason, I don't think, to do anything about it right now, but will they want to?
Oh, man. So the way I see it, I think right now you stash him on injury reserve. This year, if he's going to be out as long as suspected, this year's over, okay? I think the reports I've seen, I haven't followed it closely, but my understanding is November, December, that's it. That's the season, right? So even if you designate him to come back as a possibility to come back, what can you accomplish, being out that long? It's not a lot. So the point is, let's just move ahead. What happens after this season? If we presume that this is a wasted year for him, unfortunately. Your choices are as follows. He's under contract. So, you could bring him to training camp next year and say, let's see what happens. Let's give him another shot. It doesn't cost you anything to do that, to bring him to training camp. The money kicks in really for him when the season starts, on a 3rd-round rookie contract. So it's not a financial decision. It's really just a football decision. Do you want to bother with that? Do you see a compelling reason to bring him back? I tend to think they might just say, what's the downside, right? Because there isn't one to bringing him back and to let him fight it out. But if
it's all about him being a 3rd-round pick, right?
Yeah, well, not really. That's not so much that as much as
if he were a 5th rounder, you wouldn't jack with this at all, even with similar stats, correct?
That's possible. That's probably fair. Yeah. But I would also say there's another factor. The other factor is you just don't know jack about the guy because he hadn't had much opportunity to do anything. So now staying healthy is part of staying in the league too. So I'm not eliminating that as a variable here. That is part of it. If you can't stay healthy, it's not anybody's fault per se, but that is what it is, right? You got to stay on the field to matter in this league. And if you're not there, people move on. No one cares, man. So that's the reality with Jelani Woods. But all I would say is that if you draft a guy in the 3rd round, you think highly of him. So you at least want to know. And all I'm saying is I think the Colts probably feel like they really don't know. But I think the argument against it is, look, this was his best shot, right? And he didn't really show you anything. I don't know. I thought he didn't rise to the occasion at all. So the last impression he will have left is pretty poor. So
it's almost like even if you don't know, it's almost like just because of the lack of being out there, being available.
Yeah, you could argue that you don't want to go through it again,
and why would you? Right. Do you truly expect some, newfound high level? Now, I guess there's one common theme, Stephen, that may weigh against that is because they don't have anybody that you would view as being able to do absolutely everything. And I think he would be the only one. However, the fact that dude is never out there and you haven't seen him play now for 2 years probably squashes, I think, to a certain degree, that theory.
Yeah, that is definitely something to consider. You also have guys coming up to the end of their contracts in Kylan Granson and Mo Alley Cox too. So it's a couple of things. There are a couple of variables there that are going to matter in terms of how you move forward. So all I'm saying is, I mean, they may hang on to him until they have clarity on what their roster looks like next year. So let's say Jelani Woods goes through this season on IR, does or doesn't come back, irrelevant. But let's say after the season, you've got that new year that comes up in March. He's under contract. You don't have to do anything. He's just there. The only move you'd have to make is to cut him if you don't want him. So he's under contract. This is how I see it playing out. Then you've got free agency and the draft. Figure out what your roster looks like at that position. What does your tight end room look like after those two mileposts? And then at that point, you figure out where you are with Jelani Woods is what I would expect. But I think there's still a decent chance he comes back to camp, in part because there is they are kind of in flux in the tight end room right now. In terms of 2025.
Yeah, influx, there's no question about that. So the Titans trading quarterback Malik Willis to the Packers in exchange for a 7th rounder in 2025. So apparently Willis is going to back up Jordan Love right there. So that just occurred.
Yeah, I guess, didn't leave too much of a huge impression in that game where he threw like 8 passes a couple years ago, I guess, huh?
Yes, no doubt. And by the way, I did go over this, and the Chiefs made their cuts, and clearly Carson Steele of Center Grove High School is not a part of it, as he has had a lot of action and a lot of productivity in the preseason. He looks at this point to be solid, and it'll be interesting. Oftentimes, Steve, when we go through the preseason, we talk about this in terms of the Colts, where somebody is standout, you talk about him, and then once the regular season gets underway, you forget about him. I don't know if he's going to be the case there. It kind of seems like that Andy Reid has a pretty focused motivation in trying to utilize him.
Well, look, I would say this too: a lot of your success or failure in the NFL ends up being based upon where you end up. You still got to perform, okay? No one's going to give you anything, but there are better places to be than some other places.
Yeah.
Kansas City ain't a bad place.
No, it's not.
Well coached on both sides. Okay, both sides of the ball. I think some of the best coaching you can get in the NFL, and they get a lot out of their players, man. And so good for him. Good for him. I mean, again, there are a lot worse places you could be.
Yeah.
And then if you've got the wherewithal within yourself to do the rest of the job, now you're cooking with gas.
Well, and I love to see guys sticking with teams. Guys from around here played high school around here, sticking with teams. Like his teammate Austin Booker with Chicago was a 5th rounder, and didn't play a great deal in college. Minnesota, then Kansas, but has had a fantastic preseason. Maybe not getting a lot of reps this year. We'll see what happens to him. But I think they view him. I haven't seen their cut list yet, but at least it seemed like they viewed him as a longer-term option that they believe in right here. So it's good to see the local kids, make an impact in the fashion in which they're doing now.
I love it. And I can't remember. I think this was maybe after the draft or maybe we'll see this coming up soon. The NFL does those releases after the draft, I think, and then on opening day or after opening day, they tell you, hey, the origin of what states had the most guys have their origin from who opening day rosters or from the draft or what have you. I thought Indiana ranked pretty high in terms of having the number of players drafted this year. I don't have it in front of me. I'll need to find that. But anyway, if you Google it, you can find it. And they definitely put out a list for opening day rosters, which states produced the most players on opening day rosters. I will say Indiana punches above its weight almost all the time.
And this has not been the case forever. This is basically an evolution we have seen really get better in recent history here.
Yes, in recent years, I mean. Yes, correct.
No doubt about that. All right, buddy. Next week, we'll be walking it up and talking it up in a week of preparation for the Texans. It will finally be here. Have a great Labor Day weekend, man.
All right, my friend. I'll talk to you soon.
You got it. Stephen Holder of ESPN and ESPN.com's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Sid Vicious, big fan? Big wrestling fan of Sid Vicious?
I mean, I'm a wrestling fan. I can't say I was a huge Sid Vicious fan. He was a bit before my time.
He just passed away.
Yeah, I saw that.
It was reported.
Yeah.
Type of impact. Did you remember what type of impact he had? What was he with Goldberg? I mean, that was 20 years ago.
He had a program with Goldberg, and I think very famously there was a segment they did where Goldberg supposedly destroyed his car, and Sid Vicious just stood on top of his car yelling Goldberg, and it was very silly and very funny.
Was that, what did they call that era of about 20, 25 years ago?
I know there's the Attitude Era.
Attitude Era.
Yeah.
That's when they had naked chicks everywhere and stuff like that.
Essentially, yeah.
And that's when it said Raw is War.
Yep, Raw is
that
War.
was on Monday night?
The Monday Night Wars with WWE and WCW.
Yes. So, yeah, Sid Vicious. And I don't know where he may be in the hierarchy of your favorite wrestlers of all time, but evidently Sid Vicious has just passed away. To all those of you that have followed wrestling, maybe not throughout your life, but certainly at some point in your life, probably remember Sid Vicious as a personality. All right, Leonard Skinner tickets before we bail out of here. Me and you at 239-1070. It's coming up on the other side. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Yeah, one of the three is not bad. Dean Vernon Wormer. James over there, I'm John. Thank you for joining us. Busy show today. Stephen Holder. Donald Thomas, the former NFL offensive lineman, spent time here as a part of the Believe Podcasting Network. Joined us. Actually, he's going to be on, I think, some more over the course of the season, which is a good thing. And we also talked to Bob Kravitz at bobkravitz.com a little bit earlier. JMV, Chris Ballard holds on to players just to save his hide. The Jelani Woods Jelani Woods is Ben Banigou 2.0. JMV, a couple of weeks away from Brissett starting for the Patriots while the Colts trot another question mark out. A lot of good stuff right there. Podcast for the show, 1075thefan.com. Danny O'Neal, former Cathedral quarterback. True freshman starter, San Diego State tomorrow. Greg Rakestraw and more. Orlovsky, I think, is on later on this week, and we're going to have a number of NHRA guys and ladies going to join us coming up on Thursday as we're live out at Eagle Creek Golf Club. You can look for us out there, too. It should be a blast. This is, before I get back to your calls, hold on tight right there. Somebody is telling me, I don't think J-Law is making the show tonight. That's Pearl Jam. J-Law is already out there. I'm going to be there so damn late. So my friends at AAA, if Terry and the gang is out there, if Matt and Matt's out there, can you guys hold me a couple of spots? Because I'm going to be there is no way in hell. Do I make it up there by 8:30? So I'm going to leave here a little bit after 6. My good friend Doug's going to pick me up downstairs right in front of Buca. And once I get it's at Ruoff.
Ruoff.
And I'm going to go. I'm going to Mystic Waters, and we're going to take a shuttle over.
That's a bit of a trip right there.
Actually, it's not too far at all. They could, yeah. I think they go the back way.
Oh.
Is that 32 up there? Hell, I don't know what. Something.
I don't know.
Something. It's some road. But yeah, we're going to take a shuttle, I believe, from Mystic Waters.
There you go.
Yeah. JMV, the Colts cut ties with Jerry Hughes after 3 years. What's saying it better to cut ties early than to too late? A good example of the other way around. Well, and he wasn't going to work here, and evidently he's worked everywhere else, especially in Buffalo shortly thereafter. All right, 239-1070 is the number. Jason has been on hold, and Jason now is on the show. Hello, Jason.
How you doing, John?
Jason, I'm great. Go ahead.
I did not anticipate calling in to talk about Sid Vicious today.
Yes, well, go ahead because he has passed away earlier today.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Well, I was a Butler student in the late '90s, early 2000s, and I don't remember if it was 99, 2000, 2001, somewhere in the neighborhood. I think it was a Monday Nitro, so I think it was WCW here in Indianapolis. And he also went by Sid Justice, if you remember.
Okay.
And I don't remember exactly which of the names, but he headlined a show here in Indianapolis on the Monday night show, and broke his leg during match. And I remember, when you're watching back in that time, you didn't know if it was part of the storyline or what it was, but it was so weird that the lights just all of a sudden went on. You saw so many people rushing the mat to take all the ropes and stuff off and get emergency personnel in there, and then it was like you were mid-match and all of a sudden you were just told you had to leave, and that's my Sid Vicious.
Wow, he broke his leg for real. Now, did he continue or did they have to come out and?
No, they shut the whole. I mean, I'm trying to remember. I remember him being, I think, by the ropes. I don't know if he jumped down, but basically his legs shattered.
Oh,
and the referee put his arms up in a cross motion, and that's the indication that there was something bad.
Okay.
And the lights, the whole place, it was Baker's Live Casino, whatever the hell they called it at the time. And the lights came on, announcement came on, basically show's over, and the ropes came down immediately, and emergency personnel was sent.
Wow.
To the ring, right away. So.
Yeah, I
was. Vicious suggest.
That's a hell of a story right there. I just I don't remember much of that era, and I was only in there with the local when it was like the Dick the Bruiser era when I was really young, and that was regional, and then I was at the early stages of the then WWF with Hulk Hogan, Junkyard Dog, and guys like that. So
you had the video games, you had all the shows. Being a college student during that era was prime for your 19, 20, 21-year-olds.
They had the they had the cartoon. The cartoon was in my latter stages of it, but it kind of started with the main event. The Saturday night main event is where it really made the crossover. Plus, I guess you can honestly say it started whenever Hulk Hogan was in Rocky III as Thunder Lips. That's kind of when it all started right there. So, yeah. Anyway, hey, Jason, man, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. It's Sid Vicious passes away earlier today. Famed former wrestler. Daryl's got a traffic update at 239-1070 before the break. Hello, Daryl.
Hey, you shouldn't have any problem getting in there to Ruoff because a lot of people were going out there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon to get in line. So I just dropped somebody else off, and it's pretty late traffic getting in there.
Is it really? So I'm going to be okay, you're saying?
Yeah, it just depends on how much traffic you hit coming out of downtown.
Yeah, it's always a blast. Yeah. It's always a blast. Now, nope, but it should be fun tonight. So, first time for that.
And I will be calling you from Vegas next week, giving my picks for the weekend.
That's awesome. Although if you're calling Saturday, I think Hagen's going out there at the end of the week, from what I hear.
Well, I'm not going out till Monday. So.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, you're going to call me next week. All right. Well, that works. No problem. But then you're going to call me Saturday because we're going to be doing the live show at Mystic Waters.
I'm going to make an appearance out there.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll do that, too. Everybody love to see you out there.
All right, brother. Yeah,
Daryl says traffic up near Ruoff is all good. I got a quick question, too, regarding Pearl Jam. Hit this break. We'll come back. Skinner tickets we're going to give away here before the end of the show. Is there anybody out there that goes, yeah, you know what? I'm just not interested whatsoever. Now, I will tell you this. I'm interested because I do really like their music. But I'm more interested because I've never seen them, and I'm always afraid with how sporadically they show up around here that they'll ever be back. And I know when everybody has probably seen them, if you've already seen them, you probably saw them at Wrigley Field, for example, in Chicago, because they play like 90 shows there. Anybody just goes, hey, you know what? I don't get the interest here. I don't get it. It's out of curiosity. Skinner tickets here before the top of the hour. We'll give those away and recap the show today. Get you set for tomorrow on what is going to be a fantastic and fun week, which I think we all need. I'll explain it to you. That and more coming up. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Ride with JMV.
You're going to eat your fat.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Skinner tickets, number 9 at 239-1070. Crank it up for me, James. Let's get somebody in the mood. I love this song. September the 14th is on a Saturday. That is Skinner and ZZ Top together. This reminds me of the legend, Jimmy Mad Dog Matus. On a Tuesday, you know Dog would be giving you the 2 for Tuesday on Q95, the rock station. Yeah. Legendary. So, Leonard Skinner and ZZ Top. Saturday night, September the 14th. Ruoff Music Center. Yeah, I think, where are they up next? Oh, they're playing Ravinia Fest. That is actually a really nice place. Ravinia Fest is north side of Chicago, Highland Park. I saw Duran Duran and Chic with Nile Rodgers up there, and that was pretty awesome. Yeah, Jason just sent me this. That may have been Jason that just called, too. Sid Vicious and the worst injury in TV wrestling history that he described took place here. Sid Vicious passed away. Noted high-level wrestler, Sid Vicious. Hey, JMV, I hear you talking about both Friday and Saturday. Are there cabins available? There are cabins available. Last check, cabins available on Friday night. So we'll be doing this show Friday. And I think both Gina and Lindsay are coming out on Friday as well and going to be hanging. But we'll do that Friday, this show. And then they're going to have a band and food and all that into the evening. But I think last check, Brent told me for Friday night there are cabins available, but cabins for the JMV Takeover Saturday night completely sold out. But if you want to get a tent or whatever and tent camp up there, you can do that. Or as I like to laugh and say, get out your pup tent. You can certainly do that. But it is going to be a weekend bender and a blast for real. Mystic Waters Campground with your Labor Day weekend bender. And shout out to Richard of Ford's Garage, who's going to be bringing food over for this show on Friday. Absolutely cannot wait. Jake Query, who's back in town, just sent me a note. Evidently, he's going to go see Pearl Jam, too. Leaving at 7 for Pearl Jam, so I'd say you're fine. I want to be fine. From my friend Doug, biggest issue I have at local stations is that they'd never play a concert replay. Love those leaving and driving concerts. Concert replay. And I miss Dog. Dog is living the life right now, though. A great personality. Yeah, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, too. Looks like Carson Steele, and I don't think anybody questioned it with the type of preseason that he had, but it will be interesting to see, and hopefully this is the case, because as I mentioned to Stephen Holder, oftentimes when you get into the preseason, we talk about, stars and breakout guys, and then it never does materialize. And around here, around the NFL, there have been any number of guys that would fit that particular category. But, hopefully Carson Steele with Kansas City is something that is even more solidified as they made their roster cuts. And I don't think there's any question he wasn't going to be a part of the 53 man, but he was not on that list. Fever later on tonight. And Bob Kravitz mentioned this, bobkravitz.com a little bit earlier, that on the road in Atlanta tonight at 7:30 is an incredibly important game for them. And no doubt about that. And then Connecticut coming up on Wednesday. That is here in town. And on the road against Chicago, getting that rivalry fire back up again, coming up on Friday. So they go this week. The Fever go tonight, Wednesday at home, and then Friday and Sunday on the road at Chicago and Dallas, respectively. You got to start putting together some wins because it is down the stretch. More than a handful of games and more time to get it done. And certainly, for example, Caitlin Clark has been playing well. In the loss to Minnesota, 23 points she had. And then prior to that, back-to-back wins at home versus Phoenix and Seattle, both of the impressive variety. So Fever and the Dream tonight. Is that on 13 tonight? Have you checked? Or NBA? I see it's NBA TV right here. Assuming that means 13. I could be wrong. 7:30 is the tip time tonight for the Fever and the Atlanta Dream. We'll have a recap of that coming up on tomorrow's show. Danny O'Neal, a true freshman starter at San Diego State, joins the show. Of course, had a fantastic career at Cathedral. So a quarterback starter at San Diego State, and Danny joins us on the show tomorrow. Greg Rakestraw on the show coming up tomorrow as well. And we'll have roster cuts finalized, we believe, coming up during the show tomorrow. We'll talk about that as well. Bob Kravitz, Donald Thomas, Stephen Holder, podcast 1075thefan.com. James, great job out of you. Hopefully I see you later on tonight. Let's all enjoy Pearl Jam and Ruoff together. Shout out to AAA membership up there as well. It's 93.5 1075 Fan.